What's up everyone? Today, Chef Daddy Lau is going to teach us how to make steamed spare ribs with black bean sauce, also known as pai quat in Cantonese. It's a popular dim sum dish that's really easy to make at home. Dim sum, or dim sum, roughly translates to a touch of heart, a reference to the delectable snacks that 10th century tea houses would serve to traveling merchants in Guangzhou, one of the largest international ports along the Silk Road. Even though dim sum is widely considered to belong to Cantonese cuisine, it evolved from a wide range of influences, largely because Guangzhou was and still is a critical hub for Chinese trade and a melting pot of different cultures. Teaching us his unique home-style steamed spare rib recipe will be my dad, who's been cooking Chinese food for over 50 years, and who also happens to be playing the flute that you're listening to right now. After the recipe, I invite you to eat with us as we dive into the subtleties of making spare ribs, marinating techniques, and how my parents used to raise pigs in China. If you're looking for a written step-by-step version of this recipe, check out our blog post at madewithlau.com. Hope you guys enjoy!
朋友們，大家好啊！今日呢，我就介紹一個我哋屋企經常在豉汁蒸排骨。
Just to highlight some key ingredients, pai quat is usually made with daoxi, or black fermented soybeans. My dad's recipe also calls for a dash of red chili peppers and a peel from a stash of dried mandarin orange skins, which are both optional, but will give your spare ribs a unique zest. We'll need to soak our dried skins in warm water for 5 to 10 minutes before we mince them later. These black beans have been an important commodity for thousands of years, dating back to at least the Han Dynasty, when archaeologists found a huge stockpile of preserved beans in a noblewoman's tomb. Today, daoxi is really easy to find, as most Asian supermarkets sell these items. If you don't live near one, check our description for an Amazon link to buy the black beans online.
首先呢，呢個豆豉我洗咗佢先嗬，洗咗豆豉先，首先洗豆豉，洗咗佢 ，OK。 就擺喺度等一陣間先，即佢浸一浸腍啲先嗬，就擺喺度先。好啦，我哋而家咧就先切好嗰啲排骨先啦嚇。我哋今日用呢個排骨大概係1磅。喺 market 咧賣嘅時候咧，佢就已經切咗一條條咁打橫切咗噶啦。如果佢唔切咧，你可以要求佢咁一條條咁幫你切開打橫咁啊嚇。嗱，睇到嘛？好啦，我哋而家切好啲排骨先嗬，打橫嘅切，塊塊一塊塊嚇，睇到？好啦，排骨就切咗落，我哋俾啲生粉落去，揦佢先嚇，俾一湯匙嘅生粉落去，咁揦過佢。逢係蒸排骨咧，你想佢好食咧，就一定係要沖乾淨佢。咁蒸出嚟嘅排骨咧，佢就冇嗰種血腥味㗎啦，就會靚好多。
Rinse the ribs in running water for 1 to 2 minutes, gently massaging and moving the ribs around the bowl as you rinse. Halfway through, pour out the water and repeat. A common misconception is that the red juice that leaks out from meat is blood, but it's not. Most of the time, the blood has already been drained by the time you buy it, and the red juice is actually a result of freezing the meat during transport. When you freeze meat, which is about 75% water, the water inside the muscles expands into ice crystals, which rupture the muscle cells. And when the ice thaws, it carries some myoglobin with it. Myoglobin is an iron-rich protein that turns bright red when it's exposed to oxygen. The purpose of myoglobin is to store extra oxygen in muscles that are used for extended periods of time. Interestingly enough, this is why not all meats are red or dark. Beef and pork meat are red because cows and pigs stand and roam almost all day. In contrast, fish meat is mostly white, with some red meat around the fins and tail, because fish float in water, and they aren't constantly using the bulk of their muscles. After we're done rinsing, we need to dry the meat. Squeeze the ribs against the colander with your hands. Then, wrap the ribs in a thick paper towel, and press and squeeze to let the towel absorb more of the water. In general, the longer you rinse, the more colorless your ribs will become. However, studies show that rinsed meat will lose its iron and other important nutrients the longer it's rinsed, so there's a trade-off.
嗱，我哋而家咧就俾啲味落去，醃一醃嗰啲排骨嗬。呢度係1個湯匙嘅蠔油，半個茶匙嘅鹽，因為佢已經有啲蠔油喺度，加上啲豆豉咧，佢會有啲鹹嘅味喺度。呢個係糖，1個茶匙，生抽半個湯匙落去嚇。
If you're particular about the final color of your ribs, it's important to stick to light soy sauce. Dark soy sauce is often used as a dark dye or food coloring, and we don't want that here. To save time for later, start boiling 3 to 4 cups of water for steaming in the wok. Then we'll mince 1 clove of garlic, a few slices of ginger, and our soaked mandarin orange peel. We'll also cut a few slices of our red chili pepper and 2 to 3 pieces of green onion as garnish. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to weigh these amounts, but you can get a rough idea for how much my dad is using based on 1 pound of ribs. We'll add everything except for the chilies and green onion to our bowl of ribs, as well as a half tablespoon of Shaoxing wine. Massage the ribs around for about 45 to 60 seconds to evenly distribute all of the flavors.
慢慢咁撈佢，等佢啲排骨咧慢慢熟晒個，熟下啲味落去。好啦，整啲豆豉先嚇。佢煲埋落去嚇。
Mix and massage the ribs around with the black beans for 20 to 30 seconds. Then add 1 teaspoon of sesame oil.
好啦，俾埋啲生飯落去一齊撈就得啦。我哋生飯咧，俾兩個湯匙。我哋慢慢咁撈勻佢先嚇，咁就醃好晒啲排骨啦。
Mix the cornstarch around for 45 to 60 seconds.
好啦，準備燒隻鑊啦，等佢快啲水滾。嗰度咧，我哋用嗰個茶壺就一邊煲緊嗰啲滾水，嗰個快速嘅，先係倒落嚟呢度，再煲落呢度蒸排骨。我哋而家咧將啲排骨咧排落嚟碟，嗱睇住嚟，盡量咧唔好嗰啲碟皮。如果碟皮咧，佢啲排骨咧底下嗰塊咪冇咁容易熟咯。啱啱排過嘅碟佢就好啦。辣椒啊，再落少少呢個生油上去，等佢面蒸起上嚟咧，嗰啲排骨咧會光滑啲嚇。將啲水加落嚟呢度，咁所以咧就俾啲滾水加落嚟呢度咧，就等佢呢啲水快脆啲滾，咁啊縮短咗我哋呢個視頻嘅時間啦，係咪啊？好啦，水咧要俾到正蒸呢個嘢嘅面上嗰度，將嗰啲碟擺落嘅時候咧，個碟底要啲水，啲熱水擺喺度嚇，啱啱啲熱水就喺個面浸到個面㗎。我哋而家冚住個蓋，冚住個蓋咧，開到最慢嘅火嗱，20分鐘要蒸20分鐘啲排骨，我哋慢慢等啦。好啦，夠20分鐘啦，啲排骨應該熟㗎啦，睇住 ，OK， 熟㗎啦。我哋而家咧擺埋啲葱花上去嗬，好啦，排骨就蒸熟啦，閂火，熄起佢 ，OK， 好啦，排骨就蒸好啦，食得。
Stay tuned to eat with us and hang out with Baby Cam. We dive into a lot of interesting stuff, like how my parents used to raise pigs in China, how to properly marinate meat, and much more.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers.
紅堆啊，紅堆有冇紅堆？紅堆食嚿排骨啦，紅堆這個紅堆，紅堆食一個排骨。You wanna eat some Cam？啲人都食個排骨，紅堆。
Just like we go dim sum, it's very delicious. Steamed 排骨 pretty popular, cook at home because in the old day we were still living in China. By the time we don't have a oven, if we may spare it, then most of the time is steam.
Did you have this growing up? I thought you didn't have meat.
Oh yeah, but not that much. Once a while we can keep a spare it, but we cannot have the spare it for our meal like when we in United States right now. The price is very low for spare it, but in the old day it's not that much like right now. 如果你買排骨咧，你係買邊個部分最好咧？
排骨嘅尾嗰邊咧就冇咁肥，冇咁多油，個頭嗰邊咧就多油啲。
咁點先係為止頭同尾啊？
你唔使噶啦，你話俾佢聽我愛邊個頭愛尾得啦。
你喺中國有冇養豬啊？
我就冇養，我阿媽即係你估埋養過一隻豬。
好多功夫啊！
哦呀，養豬係好多工㗎，好多啊。
好邋遢。
You have to have one spot inside your house. It's called 天井。They have an open area. The pig will stay there. So every day we have to chop the sweet potato leaf. 番薯葉米糠。
嗱，我哋嗰啲種嗰啲番薯，嗰啲藤，
我哋出邊有啊。
就俾啲
餵豬啊！
餵豬嘅。
For the rice, have a shell. Grind the shell into like a powder, and then mix up with the 番薯葉 cook the leek and cook the 米糠 and then feed the pig.
一日會食幾多磅啊？
哦，好多㗎。Pig have a big appetite. Pig can eat the whole part.
講監皮咧就喺新會 County 嘅 China，喺台山隔離嗰個 County， 嗰啲監皮咧就全世界都開名，新會監皮，個戶都識整監皮嘅。嗰啲監皮咧擺得越耐越長越好。我呢啲已經3、4年㗎啦。
3、4年。
4年啦。
我啲已經3、4年咁耐，4年咁耐㗎啦。好多人都唔識得用呢啲果皮蒸嘅仔，你要睇嗰啲視頻嗰啲，邊有人俾果皮蒸啊？我蒸魚都俾佢蒸嘅啫，你知唔知啊？要俾啲果皮落去咧，就劈晒嗰啲腥味去啦。果皮落去食到好香噶嘛，係咪？你喺邊度擺啊？俾佢入邊仲有大包嗰度啊！
攞出嚟，攞你個包出嚟。
好多啊！我好多間皮㗎，我成日用間皮嘅仔。我唔單止係蒸煲湯都用嘅。
咪打開俾佢影一影啊！
聞到好香啊！你知嘛？一打開就好香啊！你已經擺越耐越好噶。陳皮啦。如果係1、3會有咁好啊？冇咁好味，不過都 OK 啊！呢啲已經好多年噶啦。好香係咪？係咪？你曬幾耐啊
If the sun like this, 2 to 3 days。你曬完之後咧，一搣就可以甩爛啦，嗰就乾啦。Just break it，咁就乾啦。如果係佢唔乾咧，佢唔爛嘅。咁你今日切嗰陣時已經濕住少少。You have to hydrate it for
幾分鐘咧？5分鐘咁解。俾啲暖水浸咪快啲。好多仲有幾包喺度。嗱，我寫住時間喺度㗎。05年嘅呢啲。
5年。2005。
05年嘅。
Oh, so it's 15 years old. 15年啊？
呢個05年㗎啦。
唔會變啊？
唔會。
如果係變咧，你睇到佢係 molded。But you have to keep very dry and clean environment。
夜鋪啦，夜鋪啦。因為你加生粉先洗，如果你唔加生粉，唔加生粉就得，就俾水浸耐啲。通常啲大個餐館做嘅咧就唔加，佢就俾個盆裝啲水成日水沖住嘅。
You waste a lot of water。
Oh, you have to keep it running.
Yeah.
You can't just let it sit.
你可唔可以成盆水咁浸住啊？
浸住都得，俾大盆水咁浸住，浸2個零鐘，流出嚟乾乾水嘅。用個水沖就最好嘅。餐館就係啦。
Some restaurants will toss a huge batch of ribs into a washing machine with alkaline water to automate the process of agitating, rinsing, and drying their meat. Our friends over at Chinese Cooking Demystified have a great explanation of how to replicate this process in their own version of homemade steamed spare ribs. 飲茶都係好白色嘅。咩？佢浸得耐。就係因為佢浸得耐。你覺得係浸得耐係咪好食啲啊 ？No， 冇咗嗰種肉味差唔多喺度噶啦。你攬一攬到啦，啲水係咁啫，嗰啲咩營養啊咩都去晒噶啦，係嘛？唔需要咁。但係佢係睇上去靚啲。睇起就靚啲，即係佢飲茶點心嗰度，佢要靚。講賣相啊嘛，賣相即係睇落去靚。即係話你一攞個碟出嚟咧 ，you will see smell good, look good, and later taste good。但係而家好似我咁蒸咧，咁深色嘅咧，喺出邊佢就話佢唔靚啦。但係我自己屋企整好味好食嘅，好食咪得咯。我又唔係拎佢賣俾人睇靚唔靚，我只係我食落去個，我覺得好食嘅，咪得咯，係嘛 ？For me, I like rinse. I don't like the meat taste that much, but since the dim sum, the spirit so much, so all the flavor it is the garlic and the black bean. 佢亦都唔係俾咗我咁嘅豉汁，佢成粒地大個就蒸嘅，佢就唔會好似我咁有啲色喺度啦，白啲。佢餐館做生意，佢梗係應該白啲好睇啲啊嘛，係咪？但係我哋屋企食嘅咧，你整碎啲嗰啲豆豉嘅咧，佢啲豆豉先至放得出嚟嗰啲味，佢即係豆豉嘅香味，俾啲排骨吸碎佢，咁就好食。所以我屋企整啲排骨好食過出邊飲茶嗰啲排骨。我同你講，真係㗎，問下你㗎，真係㗎。我整嗰啲排骨，加上我嗰啲果皮、薑、蒜。咁就放送就係嗰啲味出嚟。有時你可以買嗰啲black， 你買 black bean sauce。得有啫。嗱，有啲又用麵豉啫，嗰啲我屋企買嗰啲，有好多人用嗰啲蒸又得。係咪咁好食啊？唔同，你嘅味道唔同啫嘛。有啲人中意啫嘛。
一樣啊，冇乜所謂。有啲人就用呢啲蒸㗎，有人用呢隻蒸嘅，亦有人用鹹蝦蒸嘅，蝦醬蒸嘅。你可以中意邊都得，豆豉又得，
唔使搞得咁複雜，
又唔使中啊呢個就得㗎啦。
你係醃好之後先至再加個生粉係嘛？佢點解喎？
將啲味索入咗肉嗰度先，再封翻佢，係咪啊？好似我撈麵都係一樣啫嘛。等啲麵索咗啲味，我先再俾啲芡水冚翻佢。
如果你擺生粉太早咁會阻住。
好似閂咗道門咁啊！
閂住道門咁咯。
Not easy to let the flavor get in.
If let's say you're like marinating overnight, is it better to wait to add cornstarch in general?
一齊放。
唔需要隔夜醃就醃嘅仔，隔夜醃得太時間長嘅咧，就醃死咗啲肉。你將有啲鹽啊，有啲咩咁一醃啲時間長咧，揦死咗啲肉，唔得。凡係咩都係，啲菜都係，你俾啲鹽醃落嗰啲水入邊啲水分咪放出嚟咯。
我好多時係過夜醃啊。
No
即係你譬如啲菜咁啦嗬 ，when you put the salt, oyster sauce, anything with salt, then 你一落鹽咧就出水㗎啦。
我煮菜永遠都係要起嗰時先落啲鹽落去嘅，唔係你邊啲菜一齊撈啲鹽一齊煮嘅。有一樣嘢分開嚟講，如果你係 barbecue 嘅咧，要耐啲冇乜所謂，入味啲。你 barbecue 咧，你唔需要落嗰啲生粉啊之類嘅啦嘛，係咪 ？barbecue 唔同啦。因為佢大嚿大塊，同我一嚿嚿斬開。
Take a while to let the flavor absorb.
Oh, I see. But this is so small.
But this is so small, so can absorb really fast.
Next, we discussed using a baking soda solution to marinate and tenderize the ribs. I stopped filming briefly because I thought we were done, which explains the weird jump.
我哋有時我用啫，將啲肉快脆啲味料入去。如果唔落佢咧，仲有啲汁水喺出邊，吸唔晒入去。同埋落佢咧，好似啲排骨咁落落去咧，佢會冇咁韌。
韌面hard to chew。
同埋咧，餐館嗰啲牛肉咧，一定落佢。落咗佢咧，佢啲牛肉佢冇咁韌。
好似一磅肉，你用幾多啊？
一磅肉落半個茶匙啦，唔可以落太多呢啲嘢，落太多啦變咗佢都係鹼性㗎嘛。如果太多啦就變咗有種鹼味，就少少落少少。而且你一定要開咗少少水先至好撈，如果唔係咧，嚿肉就黐晒你㗎啦，你分唔開，知唔知啊
？Oh, this is very important.
我話俾你聽啦，我通常醃啲肉咧，我就俾佢啲鹽同埋一齊嘅味料一齊。開咗啲水，先至倒啲肉落去，咁樣撈勻佢。
哦，如果冇水咁會黐晒。
黐晒咯，黐晒一嚿肉黐晒咯，未俾水咁俾埋一齊落去，又鹽啊、鹽啊、咩鹽糖啊咩咁味翻連埋一齊，兩嚿肉索晒你噶啦。咁你其他肉咧，你面上嗰啲索到啫嘛，咁後邊嗰底下嗰啲，係嘛？你明白嘛？
咁點解你今日唔用？
我今日唔用嘅意思咧，就我已經夠啦。我咁嘅做法已經係完全
唔需要用
佢啦。
因為我哋係好 small amount 啊，啲 soy sauce 啊、啲鹽啊、啲糖啊 ，easy to spread。But if you have a lot, take a time to absorb, right？
都做乜啦？睇謝爺做乜啦？睇你個面仔啦，搲喺度化面貓。
你真係要包實佢嘅手啊，細佬，唔係佢搲到好花。
Getting fights all the time。
個化面貓。
Hi, dear fan. Today we are sharing Daddy Lau's steamed spare rib with black bean and garlic. It's pretty easy. Hopefully, all the fans like our video and also share our video and subscribe our channel. Thank you. Thank you for all the fans and watching our video. We see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye, Kim.
Kim say bye bye.
Bye, Kim.
Kim say bye bye.
Can you wave bye?
Kim, bye bye.
Bye.